And so here's what you've got. So this, unfortunately, it cleared it out. So the sodium line started a little bit before 0.75. Okay? The calcium line starts right at 0.75. So what you're going to have is that you're going to have two parallel lines like this. So you're going to have one line right here that starts at 0.75. This is the calcium line. The sodium line is going to start here, okay, a little bit before, about, you know, maybe like would be the equivalent of like 0.6. So that's going to start at 0.6, and then that line is going to go up and it's going to be parallel. So you're going to have two parallel lines like this. One's going to start at 0.75, which is your calcium line, and then you're going to have your sodium line, which is going to start here. So make sure that, so it's going to look something like this, okay? So make sure that you label that bottom line the calcium and that upper line the sodium. Okay, so that's what's going to happen on that one. Okay, we're in the home stretch. So when you get to 30, it's like what that horizontal line is at the beginning. Keep in mind what you're graphing, okay? This is the energy of the electrons, okay? And this is going to be important. This is not the energy of the photons. This is the energy of the ejected electrons, okay? This is the electron energy. Listen to me. This is the electron energy. So basically what happens here is that until you reach this threshold, until you've given it enough energy, the electrons don't have any energy because they're just sitting there orbiting around the nucleus. After you cross that threshold, now this is like Liza showing up, hey, it's going to take Tate, it's going to take her 0.75 to get Tate out of jail. After that, she's going to have more than enough energy, and then Tate's going to have more and more energy, and no, he's established on the YouTube comments, he doesn't like McDonald's, but it was a good story anyway. Can't believe you ragged on my story, Tate, seriously. Okay, and how can you not like McDonald's? Anyway, so, small detail. So, you're here, the electrons aren't gaining enough energy to be ejected. Afterwards, Tate is free, Eliza's bringing more and more money, Tate's going to have more and more left over to go to wherever place Tate wants to go. Okay? All right. Now, on 33. So, now we're going to check the energy versus light frequency. And shut that off. Okay? And now, what's happening on 33, and again, this is, ideally you would do this, but you would predict the slope, the shape of a current versus battery voltage using sodium, assuming the wavelength is 330, and the voltage would go from negative 6 to positive 6. So, ideally what I'd want you to see is that, and let me kind of set that where this is what's going to happen. And we need the okay. So, ideally, if you were actually in the room, I'd make you predict the shape of this. Now, let's just think this through. If I've got some negative voltage, that means that I'm going to try and stop this thing. If I've got positive voltage, okay, then I'm going to make this the positive terminal, right? I'm going to make this the negative terminal. If I've got negative voltage, this is the negative terminal, this is the positive terminal. So, hopefully at this point you should realize, oh, this is going to be a function of like the stopping voltage. So, hopefully, not give it away, but hopefully you would realize that this is going to be a horizontal line. I'm going to stop, I won't have any current. And then I'm going to let more and more electrons make it across. And then eventually that thing's going to level off. Because then I won't have then all the electrons are going to be making it across. So basically, I've got too steep a hill, and then I'm going to lower the hill, and then more and more of the electrons are going to go across. And then I'm going to have such a flat hill that eventually all the electrons go across, and this thing is going to flatten out. So let's see what happens. So, yeah, Viceroy voltage, that would be me, but anyway. So we're going to do this. So here's what we've got. And again, this is tough to see. I wish this was bigger. So I've got no voltage at all until about -1.5. Okay? So I've got no voltage, -1.5. Then it begins to go up. Okay? And again, this is your current here. Okay? This is your voltage. This is current. So I have no current. Then at about -1.5 volts, then I begin to see a rise. And then at 0 volts, then the line kind of levels off. So I've stopped the current, then I'm letting more and more electrons go across, and then afterwards, boom, they all still make it across. So that's what, so on number 37, you're going to make a sketch, okay, and you're going to have two lines, sodium and calcium. So this is actually the calcium line. Hold on, I forgot to set that back to sodium. Hold on, I gotta change this. It was like, something's wrong. My bad, I forgot to check, so forget what I just said. Like, I broke physics for just a second. This is what your sodium line should look like. So, you're at -2, okay, so this is your sodium line. This is important, this is your sodium line. So your sodium line starts at -2, it goes up, you hit a current of 0, and then it plateaus out. This is your sodium line, okay? This is your sodium line. -2 up to a current of, in this case, like 0.566, and then it's going to plateau out. So, -2 up to 0.566, and then it plateaus out. -2, 0.566. Now we'll do calcium. So with calcium, we're going to do the same thing. So with calcium, it's a little bit of a shift. So this is, instead of taking off at -2, we're going to take off at about -1.5. So here's your calcium line. You're going to take off at -1/2 here. You're going to go up to a current of 0.251, and then it's going to plateau out. So here's your second line. Make sure that you label both lines on this graph. You're at -1.5 up to 0.25, and then it levels off. And then your sodium started back here at -2, it went up to like 0.566, and then it's going to level off. So your sodium line is here, but it starts back at -0.2. Your calcium line starts at about -1/2. It plateaus out at about 0.251, and then that levels off. Okay, so that should get you everything that you need to finish up the lab. So, well, that was exhausting. So there we go, kids.